bye to the advert, and now we have Laurence Bradley with us here on Destination Newry, the morning programme. Laurence is from the Confederation of Community Groups, and you're the development manager.
I am indeed.
You're very, very welcome. It's lovely to see you.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks very much.
My microphone I need. Andrew has drawn my attention to it, which is a very good idea. What are the Shining Light Awards?
Well, the Shining Light Awards are really a recognition by the Confederation for the work that's undertaken by volunteers throughout Newry and Mourne. Now, it's particularly focused at the groups that are registered and affiliated to the Confederation, which is, over 60 to 70 groups that are affiliated to them. Now, I suppose the awards were named after Patricia Graham, who was a colleague of ours.
Right. What did Patricia do?
Well, Patricia, I suppose a couple of things about Patricia was, Patricia came from Shortstown in Belfast to Newry, and she brought that sort of, earthy Belfast-ness to everything she did there. She worked originally for Concern with Paddy McGuinness.
Yes, yeah.
And then she transferred over to us then. She worked in Newry Volunteer Bureau, and I suppose she sort of really epitomised all that was good about that, in the sense of, she was a volunteer herself, and she, cared deeply for people, and she cared particularly for people who were, disadvantaged in life. And she did that on a personal basis, but also then on a professional basis. She did that in terms of how she approached people in her work.
Yes.
So when she died sadly of cancer, it really did impact on people working in the place and on the volunteers as well.
And was there a moment when you gathered as a little group and said, we have to do something to commemorate Patricia?
Well, I think we always knew we had to.
Yeah.
Because, and this whole notion of Shining Light was about her.
And Patricia was a shining light?
She was, absolutely, yeah.
So who are the most recent recipients of the Shining Light Award?
Well, the Shining Light has been going for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And there are basically 7 categories in it. And it's done on 2 sides, on an individual basis, and it's done on an age basis then. So it's categories like 16 to 24,
yes,
24 to 39, and then there's a 50 plus element as well. And then there's another side of it, which is, so that really is about recognising individuals, right? Then the other side of it is about recognising groups. And I suppose, that's key to our work in the sense of, it isn't just about individuals. The whole community thing is about doing things together. So with 4 categories there, we have a category for older people, for younger people, we have a category for community work and for charities. And I suppose that sort of reflects, really our range of work.
Of course,
and the sort of areas that we are interested in.
Hugely important range of work, because you've covered everything there, and every kind of disadvantage is embraced by you. And really, the awards have been made this year so far.
No, they haven't.
When are they happening?
Yeah, so the awards are to be made on the 5th of June.
Yes.
In Bellini's.
Okay.
So there's a process now going on whereby we're then gathering nominations for the awards, or accepting nominations.
And you're still accepting nominations?
We are. The closing date's this Friday.
Next Friday
coming, yeah.
This day week. So people out there in Newry, and I know you're viewing all over the planet, but those of you in this area, you can contact the Confederation of Community Groups over at Ballabot House and let it be known who you're nominating for the Shining Light Award.
Well, provided they are, connected to an affiliated group of the Confederation, But I mean, that's so wide that people will be easy. It'll be easy to identify people involved in such groups.
How long has the Confederation been going in this area? You seem to have been there since Adam was a baby.
Well, I'm there from when I was a boy.
Wow.
I'm there nearly 30 years at this stage.
Yeah.
But the Confederation has been really going 10 years in front of that, from 1973 or thereabouts.
What's the history? What's the legend of the Confederation? I'm thinking Tommy McGrath here. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. It's very much out of that tradition. It's very much out of that tradition of local communities, and also a tradition of ordinary people. It's very much focused on ordinary people, and I think it came from ordinary people in the town. It's sort of like contemporary with the credit union and the co-op. So it comes out of that spirit, you know, of doing things for yourself. But it's an interesting thing. The Confederation's an interesting thing in that it isn't just about doing things for yourself, because a lot of people aren't in a position to do things for themselves.
Yes.
So it's a combination of doing things for yourself, but also of having an eye out and caring for people who aren't.
It was a time too when people did need caring for, because you were on a parallel track to awful troubles that we were coming through.
Well, I think that is, you know, it's undoubtedly a child of the troubles in some ways.
Yeah.
And I suppose all of that self-reliance and all of that pressure that communities were under then is to some degree tied up with that. So I can see, you know, a clear path in terms of the Confederation's work from where, when I joined it, you know, unemployment rates and, you know, the sort of general demeanour of the town it's nearly unbelievable now when you see the transformation.
I suppose that's a question too to put to you, that if you think about it, have we outgrown the need for it, or how has the need changed? You know, there was the obvious need that we've been talking about in those bad days, but now we're in good days by and large. What's your role now?
Yeah, well, you know, good days for some, you know, I think is an answer. And also, you know, you're right around the change in needs. I think that, you know, economic development and economic opportunity, well, you just have to look at, you know, how the economy went in the south and how that's fickle in itself. So really the Confederation is really more about, you know, the consolidation of communities and about what's important in communities. And some of the things that are important in community aren't really impacted upon by economic fortunes and misfortunes. You know, one of the biggest issues we are dealing with is, you know, isolation, particularly we're working with older people. Isolation, loneliness, big issues, no matter, you know, across the economic spectrum. So, you know, there are issues there all the time, as well as that in terms of disadvantage. You know, society is set, and the Confederation has an interesting role in partnering other organisations, but at the same time, it has to have an ability to challenge those organisations as well.
Yeah.
And that's often, you know, an uncomfortable thing for the Confederation. People who work in community development like me, sometimes, you know, we get weary of having to ask the awkward question all the time.
But if you don't ask it, no one else is going to ask it.
Absolutely, and I think that's a key role for the Confederation. A lot of organisations do approach their work on a community development basis. A lot of sports organisations, a lot of health organisations, but as an umbrella group for community development, I think we have a particular role in, you know, two or three areas. Particularly in terms of, you know, development of good governance in organisations, but also in developing, you know, a credibility for the process of community development. And what I mean by that is that, you know, a lot of organisations find it difficult to actually work alongside communities. You know, it's very easy to deliver services to communities and leave them at their door. It's very easy to consult with communities, you know, in a superficial way. But to actually get down and engage with communities is a different piece of work altogether.
You mentioned there about one of the issues facing people today, isolation, loneliness. So it also seems to me one of the hard questions to ask in the modern times of people who are not at that stage yet, who are maybe in their 50s within community, or maybe just going beyond their 50s. If good systems are put in place for them then, and they are part and parcel of building those good systems, they're actually poulticing future loneliness out of the equation, because good strengths are being grown.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, it would be a bad message to put out that, you know, older people are all, you know, hiding and are lonely. I think, you know, there are an awful lot of able older people, and I suppose that age group of that, you know, 50-plus age group, particularly now, I think with developments in technology, there are opportunities there now that were never there before. And I think, you know, older people should be encouraged to embrace new technology.
Absolutely.
I think that we're currently now developing our own IT suite, and you know, people have a sort of picture of that around, you know, people with computers, but there's so many, you know, new forms of technology, new
and
forms
are you
of
finding that
communicating.
people are actually engaging in this, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
I just say to Andrew before you answer me there, Andrew, there's a new, our next guest is outside. Would you ask her to go upstairs, please? I don't want her to get cold standing at the door. So the new the willingness to embrace.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things. I think that technologies, like everything, you know, are good and bad. They can be used well and they can be used poorly. So, but I think it is important that people have a mindset around exploring new technologies. Now, having said that, the other side of that is that, you know, the community thing is really mostly about face-to-face connection. It really is about, you know, connection with people in the here and now.
And not only about the older population.
Oh, not at all, no.
You have the whole gamut. It's all there.
Right across. Yeah. Older people, younger people, women, men, you know, the whole gamut. And different groups and different people have different needs.
Okay. How do people contact you if they want to get involved?
So, well, there is a network of community groups throughout the area, and people will probably be aware of the community associations in their own area, or will be aware of the volunteer organisations in their own area. They can just call into Ballybot House in Cornmartin and see us, and if they are interested in volunteering or want to get involved, particularly in this whole area of community development, they'll be welcome there.
You're there to hear them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Listen, what you must do, give Andrew your email address,
Right, okay.
and he will send you the link for this interview, and you can use it on your website or whatever else.
Great, Ron. That's
Lawrence,
great.
thank you for coming in.
Indeed.
Go well, all the
Thank
best to
you.
you, and good luck
Thanks
in
very
all
much.
that you're doing.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much indeed.